I can't believe I just told you all feel free to network and nobody networked. Oh, y'all are networking in the chat? Okay, I'll let y'all have that. All right, I think we are live. Tasha or Tony, if you all can just confirm that for me whenever you get a chance to look on Facebook, but I'll go ahead and get started. Hello, 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 everyone. So glad to see those of you that I can see and see the names of those that I cannot see. Thank you for joining us. We're going to jump right into this session and make the most of our hour. Please feel free to drop information about who you are and what you do in the chat on Facebook. Feel free to do that in the comment section. And we're going to start today off a little different after I do introductions. I want to start off with the icebreaker that I was supposed to end with last week, not the icebreaker, but the thing I was supposed to end with last week. We'll start with that this week before I jump into our quick presentation. And today we're really focusing on the apps. So I'll share some apps with you as well. So I am Magalia Synth for those that I have not met before. I'm Magalia Synth. I serve as the interim executive director of Hustle Winston-Salem, which is an organization dedicated to inclusive entrepreneurship. I wish I could show everyone my shirt right now, but I don't feel like standing up. It's a shirt that's dedicated to Women's History Month. So happy Women's History to everyone again. So today we are continuing a series, The Art of Virtual Networking. If you weren't with us last week, we started at the topic and we'll go through this topic all month long. It's going to be more interactive than me just presenting with you, which means that you either need to rewatch the video a lot of times to catch a lot of the content, or hopefully you are taking really good notes throughout the session so that you can get information that's beneficial to you. So before we jump into the presentation here, I'm going to remove this spotlight. Before we jump into the presentation here, I want to start off with, it's kind of an icebreaker I typically use with my team at Hustle. We used it at our last meeting and I enjoyed it. And what I would like to do, everyone pay attention to the question. And when you hear the question, if you don't have your camera on already and you don't plan to turn your camera on, just use your mic instead of the camera setting when I say the word camera, okay? When I say what I want you to do with your camera. So again, if you don't plan to turn your camera on at all, then just use the mic, and everyone else pay attention to the mic settings on each person's picture. So the question is, if you were alone in a dark cabin with only one match and a lamp, a fireplace and a candle to choose from, which would you light first? So you're alone in a dark cabin with only one match and a lamp, a fireplace, and a candle to choose from. Which would you light first? A lamp, fireplace, or candle, and you only have one match in a dark cabin. Which would you light first? So if you would light the lamp first, I would like for you to turn on your camera. So if you are not turning your camera on at all, just turn on your mic. If you wouldn't light the lamp first, turn off your camera. But if you would light the lamp first, turn on your camera. And ignore me because I'm keeping my camera on throughout. So Lorena, Tasha, nope, Tasha went away. So Lorena went away. Tasha, Rachel, Mike.
Oh no, I'm still here.
Right. So I'm saying you would light the lamp first. That's why you're still on camera?
Yes.
So Tasha, Rachel, Michael, I'm looking for any microphones that may have came on to see if they would light the lamp first. Okay, so you all would light the lamp first. If you would light remember who would light it first with you. If you would light the fireplace first, turn on your camera. So if you're not a fireplace person, turn your camera off. If you would light the fireplace first. So Tony, Marlene, Aixa, did I say it right this time? I feel like I need a star. Okay, Richie, Tan, Shannon. I'm looking for any mics now. Julie, Danette, Jennifer, you all would light the fireplace first. Okay, remember the people who would light the fireplace first if you're a fireplace person. And then lastly, if you would light the candle first, I would like for you to turn your camera on. If you would light the camera first, I would like for you to turn your camera on. So Nicole, Jonathan, Leisha, Katie, I'm looking for mics now just in case, and Marianne would light their camera first. I mean, their camera would light the candle first. Okay, great. Huh?
Me too.
And Lorena. Oh, wait, I thought I had you for a different category. So you would do the candle first. Okay, perfect. So you all, whoever's turning their camera on can turn it back on and you all can go back to regular. So I did that particular activity just to kind of start us off today as a way to show you, if I were to continue this activity, we're not going to go through the full of it. I just wanted to do this first part of it. A good way of networking would have been everybody that chose the first option, I would have either put you in a breakout room together or have you all explain to me why you would have chosen that particular reason so that you can have a chance to connect. And same thing with the second group, everybody that chose the second option, I would put you in a breakout room together or giving you a chance to connect depending on the size of the group would determine if I send you to a breakout room or kept you in this space to interact and get to know each other better. Same thing with the third option. And that's just a way to, number one, obviously break the ice, get to know who's in a room virtually, and kind of think about people's, like the way people think. So I'll ask one volunteer from each group to tell us why they chose the option they chose. So one person from, and I think, Tasha, you don't have to be it, but be ready to volunteer if someone from your group don't. But one person from the team that decided that they would choose the lamp to light the lamp first. Why would you choose the lamp? So one person who chose lamp, and I don't remember. That's why I asked you all to remember who did it. Michael, there you go. Tell us why you would choose to light the lamp first. You're muted, Michael.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I would light the lamp first because it would light up the whole room. And then I could light up the candle from the lamp. And then I could fire up the firing place from the candle.
Okay. So that was his thought process. Got it. Okay. Someone who said that they would light the fireplace first. Someone from the fireplace group. Share with us why you would light the fireplace first.
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
My thought process was very similar to his, was I would light the fireplace first and then I can light everything else with the fireplace.
Okay. Richie, were you about to say something? That's why you came on camera? No? You're muted.
No, I was on the phone. That's why.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then someone from the last group, the candle group, share with us why you would light the candle first.
I can say, I think the candle is thicker. If I only have one match, then I run the danger not being able to light the fireplace. I thought it was going to be my first option, but then with one match, I can light the candle. And then with the candle, the lamp and candle should be enough to light the fireplace.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Lorena. So again, I only did that exercise to give you all a quick example of how you can interact virtually in a setting and get to know people, the way people think, or just figure out something you might have similar. You know, many of you may have chosen the reasons you chose what you chose for the same reasons those that spoke up did, or you may have had different reasons. But if you were in separate groups and you had a chance to connect, or you could have been posted in the chat, well, this is why I chose it, you know, and you find ways that you can connect with people. And that's kind of, you know, even if it's a business meeting, it's kind of not so focused on the topic at hand. It's just giving your brain time to be relaxed in the setting that you're about to be with, to engage with people. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And as I'm preparing to do that, continuing my initial introduction of the program, for those that are new with us, Hustle, I already shared who we are, but we do this particular program, Marketing Outside the Box, every week in conjunction with Foresight Tech Small Business Center, as well as with the Flywheel Co-working Space. And I'm happy to speak to you all at a different date and time to share with you about any one of those organizations, and so you can learn more about them on any given day and time. Can you all see my screen? I have so many screens in front of me. I don't know what you're looking at though. I know you can see your screen. I just don't know what screen. So can you let me know what you see?
It says the
The
art
art.
of virtual networking.
Art of
So
virtual
you're seeing the
networking.
cover slide. Okay. So let's jump right into the presentation. So today, last week we talked a lot about, we talked about one particular concept, and we really focused on the value that you need to bring to every situation. So what you're seeing on the screen now was the value. We talked about that. And then we stressed the two differences between random and smart networking in various spaces, whether that's in person or virtually. And today we're going to talk a lot about all virtual events, particularly I'm going to share some apps after I get through this part of the presentation. So that's going to be the primary thing. I'll go on and off the screen a lot because I want to see you all as we engage in this way. But pretty much the pandemic, we know it compelled us to change the way we interact and communicate in so many different ways with each other, not only in personal settings, but also in professional ones. It's important to stay actively engaged with people, especially within your industry or in your sector. And not only must relationships with your current connections that you have stay nurtured during this time, and thankfully we're kind of phasing out of it soon, but new connections can be established as well during this time. So opening up new opportunities that can reap benefits for you well beyond this COVID period. So if you are trying to establish connections with people who are based across the world or people right next door to you, it is important to understand the tools they are most comfortable connecting over, which is why I'm going to spend some time today talking to you on a few different tools, not the ones that you're probably familiar with, but I hope that's a good thing. You know, we know that in a lot of countries, well, hopefully we know, and if you don't, this is new information to you. In a lot of countries, things like Skype and WhatsApp are restricted. People really can't connect over those things. And in other nations, we know that things like WeChat is very popular. But the point that I'm trying to make is that apps in general are heavily used across multiple places, particularly in the US. And the idea is to be flexible and adapt based on the preference of the person that you are connecting with. That is key. Think about who you're connecting with to use. I would say in our circles, in the entrepreneurial space, Zoom is very popular and it works. So if that's the preference, do it. You know, last week I shared with you all that I hate Google Meets. I mean that to the core. But whatever, think about what the person you're connecting with is most comfortable with. A lot of times if I'm meeting someone for the first time virtually, if they're flexible and they don't care which platform we use, then I'll send them a Zoom link. But if they, you know, say, let's meet on Google Meets, or let's meet on Teams, or let's meet on whatever, I am okay being uncomfortable virtually for an hour because I'm wanting to connect with you for whatever reason. So you want to put yourself in that mind frame. The other thing, and we mentioned this a little bit, I won't spend too much time on some of these reminders. The other thing is ensuring that you have a stable connection during your time of connecting with people. So plain and simple, check your internet before you have a meeting, especially if it's an important one, if it's a one-on-one connection that you're really trying to connect with these people, or if it's a big thing, it's an event where you really are planning to network and engage people in these virtual spaces. And I'll share with you some of those apps today, which will really rely on your internet being stable for you to positively connect with people in this way. The other thing to consider when you're connecting on particular platforms, you all know at Hustle, we are really big on social media. It's one of our things. Think about how you use certain platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn already to facilitate your one-on-one interactions. So before I jump into the networking specific apps today, I do want to share some tips and tactics that we're going to go over really quickly, but I want to share with you 3 main social media platforms that I want you to keep in mind and make a key part of your networking process. And that's Facebook, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse. I'm not going to go through the details of these because y'all know we did a whole separate presentation a month or two ago on these platforms, but just kind of remembering some key things from those platforms. On Facebook, when you're talking about networking, especially one-on-one interactions, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, this is all important, mainly Facebook and LinkedIn, the groups, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. Those are important places for you to meet people, interact with them, get to know them, and make it work for you using a lot of the tips we talked about last week. Again, if you weren't here last week, you can find that presentation on our Facebook page, and I'm sure when we send a follow-up from today's presentation, we'll include last week as well. The other thing is, on both of those platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn, they both have messenger features. Get in those people's DMs. Get in people's DMs, like figure out who you need to get in their DMs. And then one of the other ways that people really don't utilize as much as a networking tool on these platforms is the comment section. People are, especially if it's a live event, like if it's a live event and people are commenting and you're seeing their comments and it's something that connects with you, like people aren't using those moments to really grab the attention of someone in the comment section and say, I would love to talk to you more about that. I'm going to send you a DM with my email address, or can you send me your email address so I can reach out to you? Like those moments are critical and crucial for your networking process on those platforms. The other key thing I want to mention about LinkedIn before I move on from social media, well, I have to talk about Clubhouse. Before I move in from LinkedIn is your profile. During this heavy virtual space, if you haven't already updated your LinkedIn profile, like this is the time to do it, because when you reach out to people, it's same thing with your Facebook. I think very few people spend time updating whatever their Facebook profile says about them, but people, before they agree to meet with you or even respond to that message, they're going to click on your name and go to your profile on LinkedIn and read that profile before they respond to you. If they don't already know you, that's what they're going to do. That's the process. So take the time to update that information, and it's not hard, but it is time consuming. So do it. We talked about Clubhouse briefly back in January or February. If you have access to Clubhouse, and I'll share again that I do have a few invites left. So if you're interested in being invited to Clubhouse, just send us an email and we will get you that invite. But if you have access to Clubhouse, which is an app, there are key things to remember. Clubhouse is very topical. So figure out your industry, your field. We talked about how you can search for those topics within the apps. Go into Clubhouse, go into those rooms in Clubhouse and listen to the conversation, get familiar with it. But eventually you want to join some of those stages on Clubhouse. And again, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, go back and listen to our presentation on Clubhouse so you can be familiar with what I mean by stage and joining the rooms, because we don't have the time to go through it today, or contact us and we're happy to walk you through that. But join some of those stages, network with people in that way. And if you remember, Clubhouse don't have a way for you to connect with people in that app. And I think that's smart and intentional. They purposely say you need to, in their bio, they either have an email address in their bio, they have a Twitter profile in their bio, or LinkedIn or Instagram. You need to go find them on one of those platforms to reach out to them and talk to them. And I love that Clubhouse does that, because it forces you to truly engage beyond that moment with those people. It forces you to follow up with someone that you really want to connect with. And Clubhouse has really eliminated the barriers of who you can reach out to. Like, I mean, we have famous people, celebrities on that app all the time. We have people that are CEOs of major corporations and things of that nature on that all the time, that they're either on the stage or they're just listening in on another stage, in another room. They're just listening. Or you can create your own room and your own club within Clubhouse for other people to come and join you. So there are a number of ways for you to network and connect within Clubhouse. So it's one of the key networking social media tools that I want to make sure I stress that you all become a part of. I see some things popping up in the chat. If it's a question for me, either Tony or Tasha, please let me know, or whoever it is, feel free to unmute yourself.
Tasha has left, but somebody wanted to know if you're going to do a separate session on Clubhouse, and then the other comments are just making people aware of how to get invites to Clubhouse. There's somebody that dropped their phone number, and then I have put the Hustle Gmail account in there as well.
Thank you. So as far as the separate session, we did a session in January that included Clubhouse. It wasn't a Clubhouse only session. But if you go into, you can send us an email at the email address that Tony put in the chat and mention Clubhouse, and we can send you that specific presentation from our Facebook page so that you can review the Clubhouse portion of it. And if you have questions beyond that, I'm happy to do a one-on-one and walk you through Clubhouse. As far as the invites for the person that put their phone number in there, please send it to the email. We probably won't remember to come pull it from the comments. So please send it to the email address that Tony put in the chat, and Tasha will definitely get it to me. And I think I have maybe 6, 7, or 8 Clubhouse invites available. So whoever the first 8 people are or so, then that's who we'll send the invite to. Keep in mind right now, you have to have an iPhone. So if you don't have an iPhone, you know, it's not going to work as of right now. Okay, I want to move on if that's okay. So just a few things that I want to point out before I share the apps with you. So when we're talking about virtual events, that's our focus today. Last week we talked a little bit about some concepts. Today we're focused on virtual events and apps. And next week we'll focus on hybrid events, but not just events, but networking sessions. But when you're talking about networking with people in a virtual setting, don't just wait to receive invitations from people to connect with you. Again, take the time to research who the right people to connect with really are. You have to be proactive in this way. You have to ask yourself, are there any networking groups with online presence that would be relevant to your interest or to your industry? Really think through that. And I mentioned last week, literally it's simple as going into LinkedIn and searching the topic of your industry, going into Clubhouse and searching. I would literally go into Clubhouse and put event planning and see what pops up and see what I want to listen to and join that day. I would go into, that's how I joined most of my LinkedIn LinkedIn groups. I searched one day, I think event planning, and I was like, oh, this group sounds like a group of professionals I want to be a part of, right? So do that with your industry or your interest. And joining these professional communities, they do require some time. Like if you're doing it right, it requires time. And sometimes it even requires a little bit of money. So sometimes it's a monetary investment as well, but they can prove to be more fruitful. And I'll tell you the beauty of these things is that even if you're only paying, you decide to pay, for example, I'm part of, I don't know if you all are familiar with I Fund Women, but that's one of the networks that I'm a part of. And I think I pay $9 a month with I Fund Women. But because I'm paying $9, and that might not sound like a lot to you, but every penny that I have to spend is a lot to me, okay? So $9 a month, because I'm giving them $9 a month, I make sure that network works for me. Like I am intentional about being involved in their Slack channel and looking at the resources that they send me and reaching out to particular women in that group and making sure that works. So I want you to take that same energy with whatever your networks are, whether it's a free network or a paid network, but there is sometimes value in putting a little dollar behind it because it motivates me to make sure that my $9 is working for me. So if I'm going to give you $9 a month, I need to make this work. Because if not, give me my little $9 back, okay? So think about that. Think about looking up different networks that are hosting webinars with the objective of knowledge sharing of whatever it is that you care about. So, I know Lorena is breaking into the podcasting space with providing financial knowledge, especially in the Hispanic community. Like look for webinars and things in that space, in that nature that's providing knowledge sharing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's financial tools, whatever it is, because that's where you're going to find networks. That's where you're going to start to decide, oh, I need to talk to that person. And virtually it's almost easier because you find yourself in rooms, virtual rooms, and then eventually one-on-ones with people where you're like, I don't know that I would ever have this opportunity to have a one-on-one 25-minute meeting with the VP of financial operations of blah, 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 So you really get the chance to milk that in virtual settings. So try to participate in those forums as often as you can. The next thing you see here, we talked about this as a key value last week, but the golden rule in both business and networking is to find a way to add value. So especially in a time where we're still kind of undergoing a crisis, and we know that companies are looking for ways to meaningfully reach out to consumers. Like, you need to think that same way. The same thing applies to us as individual people. So, you know, popping out of thin air can really give people a negative vibe. So I see a hand raised, so just one moment, Marlene. It can really give people a negative vibe if you're just kind of popping up out of nowhere and adding no value to the conversation. They're just kind of like, what? So try to find and communicate with people on personal things. And this is why I say take the time and research who you're wanting to connect with. Figure out, and I'm not telling you to stalk people. Please don't take that. Don't think that that's what I'm saying. But if you go to someone's LinkedIn page and you know that they are they have this position at this company and this is what they do. But you also notice that they're part of a golfing group on LinkedIn. Maybe that's how you connect with them on a personal level, if that's something you're into, or, you know, figure it out. Like I always share, I took golf in college, not because I had any interest in it. Well, first of all, I was forced to. As a business student, they forced us to take it. We had to take golf or tennis. But and I still can't really tell you much about golf, but I know enough of an understanding to spark a conversation, right? So if I see that with someone I'm trying to connect with, I can spark that conversation. Let's talk a little bit about golf. Teach me. And then I'm going to quickly go into whatever it is that I am actually here to do, but ease into that conversation so that they don't have a negative opinion when you're thinking about it. So anyways, you add some value, and it doesn't have to be, your value don't have to be that personal. It could be professional. So I just use that as an example. Before I go into the next one there about actually attending, Marlene, you had a question for me?
No, I was looking at chat and by accident I had my hand raised. So
okay.
Thank you anyway.
No problem. That's okay. Yes, Tony?
There is a question though.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's been an update in the chat. Tanika let us know that you can get Clubhouse on iPad. And then Michael Thomas had a question, and he wants to know, what about buying LinkedIn services?
So first, to Tanika's point, yes, you can do it on iPad. Tanika, you would have to pop in and let them know. Last I heard, that was still in beta mode, so it's not available to everyone on iPad yet, unless that has changed, you know, these things can change in the blink of an eye. But last I heard, not everyone has access to it on iPad just yet. They were still testing that, so some people do, some people don't. So yeah, I think that's great value, great information. So if you have an iPad, definitely check if you can join it that way. And if you can't, that means they're still testing it. And Tony, can you repeat Mike's question for me, please? Or
you were
Mike?
talking about, when you were talking about LinkedIn, he had a question about, he said, what about buying LinkedIn services?
Buying LinkedIn services?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, can you say
yes,
that?
you mentioned about paying $9 a month for something like that.
Oh yeah, that wasn't on LinkedIn. That's another network that I'm in called I Fund Women.
But what about LinkedIn? Is that, you know,
so LinkedIn
similar?
groups are free. You can join LinkedIn groups at no cost. Now, LinkedIn have ad services. You can pay for services to not services. You can pay for ads to target certain people and certain groups on LinkedIn.
There's a thing on LinkedIn where it says that someone looked at your profile, but I think you have to pay to see who they were.
So you're saying
what I'm saying?
Pay? Yeah. You can pay to have like pro access to LinkedIn. Yes, I understand now. Yeah. That's a personal choice, Mike. My opinion.
How effective is it?
It's like most things. It's as effective as you allow it to be for you. When you pay your money for something, if I was paying for LinkedIn, I probably would use LinkedIn as a better communication tool. I use the free version. I don't have the pro version. I don't know if there's anyone on the call pay for their LinkedIn experience at all that might want to chime in. Rick, I think it looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I used to. It's fairly expensive. It does give you access to some things. It gives you a complete breakdown of who's looked at your profile. If you're applying for jobs, it gives you information about who else may have applied, sort of the demographics. It also does a better job of providing salary estimates for jobs you've applied for. And I was actually using it because it gives you access to a tool that lets you do deeper prospecting and send out more direct messages. But it's pretty expensive, and the company that I was using it with, we ended up deciding not to renew.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much for that insight, Rick. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So the next thing here is, it might sound silly to you when I say this, but when you're thinking about networking in a virtual space, you have to actually attend these networking events. That's going to be the best way for you to network. If you don't attend the events, I don't really know that you'll get an opportunity to expand your network in that way. So I know, we're all a little busy, but I may have mentioned this last week. Add these events to your calendar. Make them a priority so that you don't miss them. If it's something that you really feel like you can be in the same space with like-minded people, just add it to your calendar and make sure that calendar reminder tells you to be there. When possible, and hopefully it's possible more often than not, when possible, when I say be there, be present as well. Like, turn on your camera and engage with the people whenever you can. I know that that's not always possible, but when you can, do that. So one of the things that I'll say about, actually attending events, very much like I told you to search these different platforms to find out who you want to connect to, do the same thing with the type of networking events that you want to attend. Make a list of topics that you are interested in, whether it's personal or professional. Make a list of those topics that you're interested in, then start searching Facebook and LinkedIn and all these other platforms for the online groups that are either offering learning sessions, social gatherings, things that you can register for, just that, so you're not just signing up for things randomly and not being strategic in your networking. Again, last week we talked about random networking versus smart networking. Be very smart in your networking tactics. So take the time to make that list and decide what to do. And even if you're still not sure that this networking experience is what you want versus the other networking experience, you're not going to know that until you attend these different experiences. So take note of the things that you enjoy in particular settings and things that you don't. And for the ones that you do enjoy, reach out to the host and see if the host has any similar upcoming events that you can also kind of keep in mind. Most times people immediately add you to an email once you join something. So you'll stay connected to them, but it doesn't hurt to reach out to the host and say something. Mike, you have another question?
Yes. As it relates to doing research on LinkedIn to find like-minded people, how do you do that?
So you really, first, what I mentioned before was think about things that you are interested in, right? So like, let's just say you decide to put in economic development in your search, right, Mike?
Yes.
Like you go to LinkedIn search and you put in the words economic development. LinkedIn is gonna pull up a list of all things economic development on their platform, right? So whether that's people that have that in their profile description, whether that's an economic development group. So the more narrow and more detailed you can be in your search, obviously it'll help limit what you see. But I think that's a first step, because then you'll see people in those particular spaces and you're like, oh, let me look at this person's page. Oh, this is wonderful what they're doing. I want to connect to them. Or if you don't see any particular person, you can always decide to see, LinkedIn brings up a group for you. You go into that group and you don't know who you'll meet in that group. You will meet those like-minded minds in that group. That's why they joined the group,
Yes.
So that's a way to do that.
Clear. Thank you.
No problem. So when you're in actual group virtual settings, whether it's a Zoom or something else, because there's so many different platforms that people use, this sounds, like, duh, I already know that, but so many people are not courteous in virtual settings. And I want you to think about this. This is especially true when you're attending open discussion type sessions. Like, be conscious of how much time you're speaking. don't dominate the conversation if there are other people that probably needs to speak. If there's an awkward pause, especially if you're hosting this virtual setting, if there's an awkward pause going on, ask the other attendees in the virtual setting a question rather than filling the time with your personal stories. That's kind of not courteous either, just telling people random stuff about you when they came here for a particular purpose. Ask a question around that purpose if you feel like the pause is an awkward pause. So just be courteous in those Zoom settings. And then you want to stay relevant, kind of very similar to being courteous. If someone asks you a question, be sure to answer it concisely and avoid going off on tangents. Like a lot of us do that, we can't help it, but try your best to not go off on tangents. Also, don't ask huge or off-topic questions at the end of the session. This is very big, this is huge. It's like walking into a store right when they're about to close. Like that's what it feels like. If someone registered for something that's supposed to be 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, at 1:59, don't ask this big, heavy, hard-hitting question. Like it's rude to the host and it's rude to the other guests. So just kind of think about that, making sure that you're staying relevant and being courteous in that time. Mike, you have your hands up still. Is that from before? You have another question?
No, pardon me. I'll take that down. Thank you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So the other thing is, when you're in these settings, you definitely want to be professional as often, not as often, always. you want to be professional. And that means being polite and considering your word choices. That means thinking about your facial expressions. A lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, my facial expressions gives everything away. Like if someone's saying something on the screen and I'm just kind of thinking like, what? My face is gonna say, what? Even if I'm muted, and I have to be very aware and conscious of that a lot of times. So think about your facial expressions as a form of being professional in these virtual settings. Remember, if you are muted or unmuted before muttering things under your breath. I can't tell you how many times I've been in virtual settings and someone say something under their breath about something that somebody else said or something in general, and they thought they were muted and it was very awkward, right? So you don't want to be that person. So just be aware of your mic, whether it's on or off, or better yet, don't say anything under your breath. That way you don't have to worry about it. And then also, even though we're virtual, be sure to dress professionally in professional virtual settings. Think to yourself, would you wear this if you attended in person? That's normally like a general rule of thumb. Ask yourself, if I was in person, would I wear this? And I know we're in a weird space where a lot of us have pajama bottoms and then decent top. Guilty always. And just if you do that, just remember not to stand up. Or just remember to turn your camera off every time you stand up, or whatever the case may be. But just know that when you're, especially in professional settings, you want to look the part. It's still a thing in virtual settings. So when you're networking with people virtually, especially if it's an intentional one-on-one interaction, everything still matters to them. They're still going to look at the full package and think, is this someone that I want to interact with in this way? Okay. I won't spend too much time on this next one because the video from last week talked on it a little bit and we spent some time talking about it as a group, but you always want to pay attention to your background. Make sure it's not giving off the wrong impression. And if you feel like you can't change your background and it's not the background that you want people to see, you can always consider a background filter. That never hurts. And if you're worried about your background and even if you can't get a virtual filter, a background filter, don't forget, you can just always turn your camera off. Although most people obviously would prefer cameras on, if it's one of those things where it's either your camera is off or it's a bad situation, turn your camera off. It's not the end of the world. And, depending on the setting, you may sometimes want to just tell people in advance. I make it a habit. If I'm not turning my camera off on in a particular meeting or one-on-one session or whatever, I make it a habit to share that my camera is going to be off during this session with you all for whatever, for whatever reason. Let's see. What's next? Attending small groups. Before I go on, Mike, you have another question?
Yes, I was finally able to get a virtual background onto my Windows 10 PC, and there's a bleeding through of the background. You have any idea what makes the background still blend in that I'm trying to cover up?
So I'm not a tech person, a tech guru per se, but I do know with certain computers and certain backgrounds, they're different rules, and you kind of have to read it. Like, for example, on my computer, I can't use virtual backgrounds, but on my iPad, they work perfectly fine. Someone explained to me something about, I don't even know. It's a technology thing that I can't even answer. Again, if someone else on the call has an answer to that question for him, feel free to answer it. But normally the computer tell you what's wrong, to be honest. Tony, you was going to add something to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I had to step away for a second.
Oh, okay. It was I saw you unmute, so I thought you had to add something to it. So yeah, Mike, hopefully that's helpful to some extent, but you would have to talk to someone. I don't know if you know Eric Green from Open Media Lab. I call him about all my tech issues. So so I can always connect you to him, and he might have an answer to that. Or Google honestly has the answer for that. Honestly, if you Google the question, it's probably already on there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So attending small, no. Volunteering is where we are, right? So here's the thing. If you have an idea for a topic or networking session, but you don't see it anywhere, find a group or offer to run an event for another group around that particular topic. Like volunteer your idea, or serve as a presenter. Tell someone, hey, you have the network of people that I'm trying to reach. Would you be open to the idea of me presenting? And what this does is really allow you, volunteering your time in this way virtually, really allows you to network with people. It allows you to put your contact information in front of them, and people reaching out to you instead of you always doing the reaching out and figuring out who you need to connect with. This is a really smart way for people to say, I really like what he had to say or what she had to say, or I really enjoyed the industry that person is in, and I've been trying to learn more. Like, it gives people kind of a easy access to interact and network with you. So really think about volunteering your ideas and your time in this particular way. And if you honestly, even in the conversation around volunteering, if you're truly a service-oriented person, you can volunteer to promote upcoming events for things that you want to make sure you have a good experience at. It might not be your event, right? It might not be something that you plan to have any role in, but you're so engaged in whatever the topic is, and you're so interested in that topic, you can just volunteer yourself and promote it. And if you want to let the organizer know that you plan to promote it, feel free to do that, because that's another connection and networking opportunity right there. But honestly, just so that your audience that you have access to can see what it is that you're interested in and can get there with you as well. So it opens up that networking opportunity. So volunteer your time in so many ways. I would say in a virtual world, and this is a biased opinion, but I think most of you all would agree with me, I prefer, honestly, attending things with a smaller group. It makes networking more impactful. Instead of being in a room with 150 people, I likely won't leave without knowing a single person, but if you put me in a space with 10 people, there's a better chance that I'm going to have some meaningful networking opportunities at this particular event. That's why in virtual spaces, sending people to breakout rooms is a huge thing, because you need time to really interact and get to know someone, right? Even if it's just even if you give someone 5 minutes together, 3 minutes together, it's better than spending an entire hour in a room with 150 people. It just won't happen. And you also network by attending new groups, new events, joining new groups. I can't stress these Facebook and LinkedIn groups enough. Hopefully you've heard me say it enough that you are like, I need to go find my groups. So joining those groups and connecting in those ways, because a lot of these groups have group only events virtually. There are groups that I am on Facebook where they go live within the group, and you only get to network with individuals in that group by being in that group. So think about that.
We have a question. Alicia, she said, I know you mentioned last week we should use a photo when we have our camera off. I tried to use it, but it doesn't work. What else can I do?
So Alicia, I'll tell you the same thing I told Marlene. Send us an email and we'll do a one-on-one to figure out what's going on with your computer, because it's fairly simple. So as soon as you send the email and schedule the meeting, we'll just walk through it one-on-one with your particular device, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Alicia and Marlene, if y'all want to get together and schedule it at the same time so that we do it all at one time, that works as well, okay?
Okay.
The other thing I want to say about new groups is I think this virtual time really gives all of us an opportunity to connect, obviously beyond our community. So prime example, there's a Black woman event planning networking group that's based in California that I've always kind of seen on social media. I've seen their posts and I've always connected with them that way, but I've never really been a part of that group because I'm like, why? They're in California, right? They're doing their thing there. And one of the good things that came out of us having to do so many things virtual, they kind of completely opened a lot of their programming virtually, which meant that no matter where you were, you didn't have to get on a plane to go to California to attend whatever they were doing. They now almost had no choice but to do it virtually. So I've had the opportunity to connect with them in that way, across the country. And it's just such a great group. And I'm so glad that this provided us that opportunity. So think about that in your industries again. If there's particular groups that you could be connecting to that you normally did not have access to, now is the time to take advantage of connecting and making those one-on-one interactions with people in those particular groups. The last two things I think before I jump into sharing some of these apps with you is, you have to have fun. If you make networking a job, you're going to end up hating it. So when you attend these things, enjoy the content and enjoy the people, but just make sure that you have fun, like connecting with other people, because that's what you would do in person. Like if you met someone and you bumped into them at an event in person, you wouldn't bore them to death and they wouldn't bore you to death, hopefully. So just use that time to really have some fun, even in virtual spaces. It's one of the things that we kind of look forward to now. And I think it goes without saying that you want to send a thank you email to people. We talked last week a little bit from the video about you all following up, doing a follow-up email. Take the time to send a speaker, because most speakers include their contact information at some point. Send them a thank you note, if you can, or if you really enjoyed something that they put together. Because keep in mind that they spend some energy putting this together, particularly for you. And even if it's not a speaker, let's just say you connected with someone in a more open discussion setting, or there was someone in the comments section that you and that person were communicating back and forth and you really felt like it was a connection. Ask them for the email address, send a follow-up and say, hey, I really enjoyed your opinions and your thoughts. Would you mind a 15-minute Zoom coffee conversation? Just so we can get to know each other better. You just never know what comes out of these connections. So make use of them. Mike?
Yes, thank you. Is there any reference point to virtual assistants and how they may assist in doing these things? It seems like it's a bit overwhelming, but how do you think a virtual assistant could tie in, and do you have any virtual assistant experience with people that you might have hired as virtual assistants?
So I have not had a virtual assistant personally, but do I think there's value in having a virtual assistant? Yes. If you find that you are someone that is not good at managing your time, managing your schedule, then yes. As far as a virtual assistant for networking purposes, I don't really think it's a good idea to have someone network for you. But it's possible. It's possible to send someone to these events and figure out what's worth, based on what you share with that virtual assistant, what's valuable to you, what's worth your time. But that person is at this point, they are doing the networking, and you want to make it. You're going to really have to find a key person, like someone that you feel like this person could represent me in my absence. You know, if Tasha was still on the call with us, she'll tell you when I first interviewed her months and months and months ago, one of the things that I told her is everything that I attend, if you can attend, you got to be there, because God forbid, if I drop dead tomorrow, number one, I still want you to be able to keep whatever I have going. And I want people to trust you and respect you enough to know that you're not just an assistant, you matter just as much, right? So you kind of, if you're gonna, she's not a virtual assistant. She's physically part of our team. But if you're gonna use a virtual assistant, my opinion is that you really invest some time into molding that person and making sure that person represents you and your brand the right way. And if you really think about it, I guess that's what major CEOs do all the time. They're not attending a lot of these things, other people are, and then those people kind of determine what's worth the CEO time as far as engaging with people one-on-one and things of that nature. So it's the same concept. You just gotta choose the right person, Mike, if you do that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's huge. That's huge.
Yep. So we have a few minutes in before we close out, but what I want to share with you all, and we probably won't have time to go through each of these, and I don't know if we have time to go through any of them, but my good friends at Artists Thrive shared this with me. Can you all see the new screen? And it says Artists Thrive, raising the value. Okay.
Yes.
So my good friends at Artists Thrive shared this with me, and it's a list of so many different virtual apps and settings and things and ways that you can engage with people. And we'll send this to you in an email so you all have access to all of this, and you can play around with the ones that work for you and the ones that don't. What I wanted to do, and I think I still have a little bit of time, what I wanted to do was kind of go through maybe one or two of them as we have time and see. Some of them you may be familiar with, some of them you may not. So let's start with Slido. Now I'll just kind of go through them with as much time as we have and leave about 3 minutes or so for questions, 4 to 5 minutes for questions. Am I on the Slido screen now? Okay, so I think this one is just a video that I can play and not have to explain.
Are you a speaker, trainer, or manager wanting to run more interactive meetings and presentations? If so, you'll definitely want to try Slido.
Slido is the ultimate Q&A and live polling platform that creates a conversation between you and your audience. If you want to make your presentation truly exceptional, you have to engage your attendees, and Slido does that for you.
Polls are a great way to get your participants involved, both remote and in person, whether you want to find out how they feel, collect feedback, or simply to break the ice. With Slido Quizzes, you can bring a bit of fun into your meeting and present information and numbers in a way that's easy to remember.
Do you have people in your audience who are scared to speak up? With Slido questions, they too have a voice. And you can even see which questions are the most important using upvotes.
And the great thing is that Slido can be used for live, virtual, or even hybrid meetings. And to make your life easier, Slido integrates with Google Slides, PowerPoint, and Microsoft Teams so that you have everything all in one place.
Oh, and all the data you've collected is safely stored. So you can export it, analyze it, and use it to make your presentations even better. So that's it. Slido's intuitive, easy, and your audience does not have to download anything. Try it yourself and make your presentations more conversational and interactive with Slido.
So that's one of them that I wanted to share quickly. I wanted to share like 7 of them, y'all, but let me choose the next one that I think is most impactful. I think, and when you receive that list, you just kind of look through it on your own. Let's see here. Did I switch screens? Are y'all still looking at Slido or are you all looking at Gather?
Gather.
Gather? Okay.
Yeah, Gather.
So Gather is another really good one, and Gather kind of pretty much creates your environment. And I don't think Gather has a video on their site, but it creates your environment, and it's really cool because as people get closer to you on the app, is there a video? I wish there was a video that just explains this. I think there is. I just can't find it in the moment. But as people get closer to you on Gather, and by you, like I mean the individual people that you see marching around the various campuses, you create the environment. And as people get closer to you, they just really, it's almost like they're there with you and you can just talk to them because y'all are in the same place. So let's just say you create your street or your office or a movie theater or whatever it is, you can interact more. And again, we don't really have time for me to find, I thought they had a quick video on their site, maybe not, but this is one of the examples. There's another one, and I may be, I think I confused Gather with Topia. I'm sorry. Topia is the one that as people get closer to you, you can learn more about it. Let's see, do we have time for play this video? Can you all see Topia right now?
Welcome to Topia, your digital space to bring people together in a more fun and natural way. Simply click to move, and when you get close to others, you can see and hear them. Hi, everyone. Hey, Dan. How's it going? It feels more natural when you can easily move in and out of conversation. Customize your world to make it uniquely yours. Choose from a library of hundreds of assets or upload anything you want. With simple drag and drop placement, it's easy to collaborate with others. Add sounds, music, live streaming audio, or embed video directly into your world, and it's all spatial. You can even add links to any object that pops up an external site, your company website, a whiteboarding app, a game, a survey, or create a network of worlds by linking them together. In Topia, it's more than just video chat. It's your canvas to create shared experiences, and you're only limited by your imagination. Having a conference or festival, attendees can access your events calendar within the world and can stay connected via private message to anyone they connect with at your event. As an owner, you control your world. You can add other editors, ban users, or make someone a broadcaster. You can also control access to your world via password, email whitelist, or single sign-on. Topia is a better place to bring people together.
And there's so many more, guys. We're obviously not going to go through all of them because we're right at our time. This particular one, Sling Show, focuses more on community work. But again, we will send you this list. You'll get this in your email, and you can kind of test out all of these and see which one works for you. So the various apps really help based on whether or not you are the presenter or whether you're just an attendee or you're doing one-on-one networking. I think Glimpse, which is, we didn't get a chance to look at Glimpse, but if you schedule something one-on-one with someone, it's a really great way to kind of do some speed networking and really engage with people so it's not awkward as you're really thinking about your networking process. I know I see a few hands up, so I'm happy to take questions, but before I do so, am I back on the presentation? Okay, yes. Just for those that have to leave right at 1:30, just kind of want to share with you, next week we'll be covering hybrid events. The week after that, we'll cover just more engagement as you think about networking, whether it's in person, virtually, or through hybrid situations. We'll talk more about the engagement of that. And then we'll close out at the end of the month with some tips and tricks that I probably did not get through with all of the networking sessions for the month. So that's how we'll do the next 3 weeks. But I see a few hands, a few questions. Let's see. Marlene is one of them. I thought I saw another hand. I don't see who it is, but feel free to ask your questions. Let me close out of here. Marlene, feel free to ask your question.
Oh, okay, sorry. The apps from Artists Thrive, you didn't get a chance to look at them all, right?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Some of them I have been familiar with, and then some of them they are apps that were new to me, but I've had a chance to look and test all of them before today.
Okay, and some are free and some are paid, or?
All of them have a free option. So most of the ones that have a paid option, the paid version clearly gives you a better experience, but you just kind of see what it's based on your needs. Some of those things really it's for somebody it's for a group or organization that's hosting a big event and they want to add this feature. So you might not need the paid version for like a smaller group setting or one-on-one. Let's just say you wanted to get a bunch of writers together, Marlene. You might not need the paid version, you know? So you just kind of, they'll all be linked so you can, just go to those sites and learn more about what works for you when you receive it.
Good, thanks.
No problem. Lorena?
Yes, my question is, how do these apps replace a Zoom meeting, a Google Meet? It's that kind of doing something different from the what you were doing now?
Yep. So these things they enhance those platforms. A lot of these things. So right now, I think the most engaging thing we can do in Zoom, for example, is polls and breakout rooms, right? You can't really, for example, in the Topia one, you can't really move your screen to get closer to Kim right now. You know what I mean? Like, I think they do now have a drag or drop feature in Zoom, but you're just moving it, but no one knows that you moved it, but you. Like, it's not an experience per se. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Lorena? So they aren't replacing those platforms. They enhance those platforms. They work to make those platforms provide a better experience. And a lot of the platforms that we're not as common with, so not necessarily the Zooms, but mainly like platforms like, what's that one? I can't remember the name right now, but it's a big event platform. I can't remember. A lot of those platforms use this because they have, hundreds of people attending their events, and they're trying to figure out the best way for people to engage with each other and make the most of their networking experience. Because in person, a lot of people attended conferences and conventions and things like that for networking, to meet new people in their industry.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions from anyone?
Thank you.
I gotta go, Mags. Did you need anything?
Okay. Nope, I'm good. Thank you. Any more questions from anyone else before we close out for today? All right, cool. Well, in that case, I hope to see you all next week. Same time, same place. Thank you, Rachel. Same time, same place. And again, next week is that a bird, Kim? Okay. I was like, wait, what am I seeing? Same time, same place. And again, next week, we're focused on hybrid networking. So we'll talk about those options, and the week after that, we'll focus on engagement. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Magali.
Hey, bye-bye.
You're welcome. Mike, before you leave, Mike,
Yes.
did you do you get our newsletter, the Hustle newsletter?
I'm not certain, but line me up for it.
Okay, if you don't get it, I'll add you, but I'll make a note to forward you either our email from our newsletter from last week or the one from today, because there is a pitch deck link in there that I want to make sure you saw.
Thank you.
Because they provided a free pitch deck outline for everyone, and it's from a group called Mogul Millennial that's focused on Black entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you for the other pitch deck thing. Send that to me. Thank you very much.
No problem. You're welcome.
All right. Have a nice day.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So before I leave, Cheryl, Nicole, Jackie, or Jacqueline, excuse me, or Kim, did you all have a question for me before we end? Nope. You're good? Okay. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
No problem. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Sam. He's waving.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.